Welcome to the Target Course Introduction to Open Vehicle Sketchpad. My name is Brandon Litherland, and I'll be walking you through how to download, open, and run OpenVSP, followed by the basics of wing design and how to design your wing for your project. And then finally, we'll go over how to export STL files to 3D print and test your wing and wind tunnel. Now, the first thing you want to do is go to openvsp.org, where you'll land on the splash page and click on the download button. This will bring you to the download page where you have both Windows and Mac OS versions of OpenVSP. If you click on the VSP link, it'll bring up a Save As dialog box where you can save the compressed version of the folders somewhere on your computer. Now, if you right-click this compressed folder and choose to either extract all or open it with 7-zip or WinZip or some other software, you'll end up with a folder that you can open up, and it contains all of the files and folders necessary to run VSP, including all of the applications. Now, if you double-click VSP, this will bring up an empty, unnamed model, the main window, and the geometry browser. And from here, you can choose to add components, manipulate your model, and take a look at how we actually run things. So that's what we're going to do next. Now that we have our blank canvas, we're going to go ahead and choose this drop-down menu in the geometry browser. Here you have a bunch of default components and some custom components that you can use. But we'll just click on Wing and add it. And this has dropped a default wing into your viewer. So right now, we have a wireframe view of the default wing in the window. Now over here on the right, aside from choosing a component and adding, you can also choose to rename the active component. You just retype and press enter. You can delete a component, but I don't recommend that you do that, because if you delete, that cannot be undone. It's better practice to choose to cut a part. If you have done that by accident or you want it put back, just paste it back in and you haven't lost anything. Again, delete is an operation that cannot be undone. If we look at the selection tool, if you have multiple parts, which for this project you really shouldn't, you can choose to select all. You can show, excuse me, or no show a part, so that just changes it to a view where it's not shown. And then you can choose surface representations. So right now, again, we're on wire view. In the general tab of the component, you can choose these preset colors for your wireframe if you like, or you can move a slider and that will change the color for you. So you can actually make custom colors out of these. If you choose a hidden view, what this does is it still gives you that wireframe representation, but you can't see through to the back anymore. So you're actually looking at the surface panels on the part itself. If you choose shade, this shades all the parts in, and you're allowed to choose different materials. So you can choose any of these. You can actually create custom materials. If you click on this button, it'll let you choose a number of properties. But for right now, let's put it back to default and go to a wireframe. So the way that I'm manipulating the model over here in the window is quite simple. I'm clicking and dragging the mouse around, and this is doing an orbit operation, so it's moving the camera around. If I right click and drag, this is a pan operation, so it slides the model around but it doesn't rotate. If you click the middle mouse button and move forward and back, this changes your zoom. Now, if you don't have a 3-button mouse or a scroll wheel mouse, and if you happen to be using a touchpad, it's actually pretty simple to just click and drag. If you, again, click and drag with your mouse button or your touchpad, it orbits. Control and click will do the zoom operation for you. If you alt click, that will be pan. So there's a number of ways that you can manipulate your view inside the menu. Speaking of views, if you click on the View tab, you have a number of standard views that you can snap to at any time. You can also use your function hotkeys to do this. And then there are a number of things where you can center, set the rotation center, or fit the model on screen. Now these do different functions. Right now, if we click on the wing, you'll notice that it has this set of axes. That's the origin of this part, and if we click C, it centers that part in the middle of the window, and you'll notice that we orbit around that part. Well, say for example, we actually want to look out here on the wing tip and get a really close view of what's going on. Well, if we try and orbit and move around, it's hard to control. It's sliding all over the place. Let's make that a little bit easier by pressing R or choosing to set the rotation center. Now you'll notice that all these nodes become active and you can choose one. This one lets you pick a point and it'll set it to the center of the screen, and now if you rotate around, you'll notice that that point remains fixed while you're orbiting. So it lets you take a really good view of these details out here at the edge. Now, if you've decided that you want to fit your entire model back in the screen and have it orbit around the center point of the model, just press F or choose to fit the model in the screen. That takes the entire model, and you'll notice now we're not orbiting about that leading edge point anymore. We're somewhere back here. So by pressing F, that took the entire model and fit it on the screen. And what you're actually orbiting around is the center of this red box that's highlighting your part. So now that we've gone over views a little bit, let's go and talk about files. So your basic operations are all here. Export is what we'll use to write the STL files later, so we'll come back to that. But it's important to note that VSP does not autosave your model. So the first thing you want to do when you create a new model is to save it, and then every time you make a change that you're happy with, save the model as something else so that you always have a version that you can go back to if you make a mistake or are unhappy with something, and you have multiple copies, so you have backups of backups. This is good practice when you're designing models, and it's a safe way to keep track of all of your changes as well, so you can look at the design history of your parts. Now then, we know how to manipulate our views, we know how to save and change everything here, we know how to use the geometry browser. What we're going to do next is go over some additional resources that you can go to if you like to learn about some of these more advanced features in OpenVSP, where you can learn more about some of the other operations and some other really useful information. So here we're back at the OpenVSP landing page. You'll notice that we have some links here at the top, and all the way down at the bottom we have additional links. So some additional resources that you can find are things like the VSP Hanger. This is an open library of lots of VSP models that you can search, choose, add to your models. Some things are already pre-created with custom parts in them, and you can download those and open them up in VSP as VSP models. So you can change anything in them. It's a really great resource for looking at how some other people have built models, getting an idea of where and how some things are placed if you want something to get started to look at. If you go to the wiki page, again, the link is right here down at the bottom. The wiki has lots and lots and lots of information on all sorts of different things inside VSP, as well as links to all the old VSP workshop presentations. Now, the 2016 workshop link will bring you to a recorded workshop where all of the presentations over all 3 days were recorded as videos, and you can get the slides. Now, a lot of these are very advanced. They show a lot of detail and a lot of control and features in VSP, but they also have some of these introductory sessions. So touring the main components, cross sections, wings, etc. All that stuff is in here. So if you want to know some more advanced features, by all means, go to nari.arc.nasa.gov/VSP. This is an excellent resource for learning the ins and outs of VSP. There is also a Google group where you can just ask questions, and the moderators, myself or Rob McDonald or anyone else in the community will be happy to answer some of these questions, usually within 12 or 24 hours. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me. It's listed on your project document, but that is a large set of resources that you can get a lot of additional information on VSP. Next, we're going to go into a video on how to work in your wing design operations, how to deal with the parameters, and how to go all the way through your project until you're ready to 3D print. We'll see you in the next video.